everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video. And Season 2, Episode 8, the finale of Season 2 of Sony Namzon's Wheel of Time shows, airing tomorrow evening. Now, that's pretty exciting considering that this has been a long time coming. We've waited a very, very long time to see all of our favorite characters converge at Falm, and maybe, just maybe, we'll see the Horn of Valir blown. So, we have a couple of little clips to talk about this evening. One happened at the end of Episode 7, and the other one was just released on social media within the last couple of days that showcase some new information about Episode 8. Now, we're going to go through each of these clips this evening, and then we're going to try to break them down and figure out what's going on in Episode 8, what we may see, what we may not see. We may be right, we may be wrong, but the speculation is a whole lot of fun. I have to admit that. So if you're new to the channel, you don't know what we do here, we cover Wheel of Time show news, and right now we're doing reviews, Easter egg videos, and breakdowns of every single episode of the Wheel of Time. We did it for Season 1, we've done it for Season 2, and we will do it for all the other seasons that are upcoming. But once Season 2 is finished, we're going to get right back to the news. We're going to cover all of the official stuff that's released, all of the rumors, all of the leaks. And yes, I have some leaks for you folks, so if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so, because you're not going to want to miss all of the content coming from What Up in the next couple of months, because the time between seasons is almost as fun as when the season is out. Not quite, but almost. Now, all of that being said, before we dive into these two short clips that we're going to talk about today, I have to give a bit of a spoiler warning since we're going to ruin some things from both the show and the books. So, spoiler warning. In today's video, we're talking about two clips in Episode 8 of Season 2 of Sony Namzon's Wheel of Time show. So if you haven't seen the first season and the entire second season of Sony Namzon's Wheel of Time show streaming right now on Prime Video and have not read, let's say the first 4 books. That's The Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, The Dragon Reborn, and The Shadow Rising from Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series. Be forewarned, I may ruin plot points and character arcs from both those mediums. All right, let's get on to that very first clip.
Too dangerous, I think, the others. But everything that I could find out said that Lanfear, Luz Therin, and Ishamael were inseparable before the War of Power. They were best friends.
Just like these kids. What of the heroes of today? That is what we are now. We are all the heroes of another age's legend. I think it's time we start acting like it.
Many people will wake from the dream today.
To the tower! For the Lion Shinoa!
If you keep fighting him, you'll turn them all to the dark.
Who are you?
All right, so that's the long clip, and we have a short clip we're going to show too. But we're going to start off by talking about where we're at in Episode 7. This particular clip was shown at the end of Episode 7, so all the major players are in Falm. They're ready for the finale, the big, huge battle, we hope. I'm not really sure where they're going with some of the storylines, but we're going to speculate and guess tonight. Now, just a reminder to you folks at home, or some of you who are new to the channel, I did not receive screeners for the show. I don't. I've asked. I don't get them. Don't receive anything official from Amazon in any way, shape, or form. A lot of other content creators have, however. So you can go to a bunch of other channels and see spoiler-free reactions to Episode 8. You can see little teases from them about Episode 8. I don't have that here because I haven't actually seen the episode. What I have seen is a ton of behind the scenes and leaked footage from Morocco where they shot most of Episode 8. And it really doesn't give me a whole lot of context for what they're going to do. So I can talk very freely about what's going on and speculate, whereas a lot of other content creators really can't because they're under NDAs, because there is sort of a press embargo on it until it actually releases. So I'm free to talk as much as I want about this because I have no idea what's actually going to happen. But keep in mind, this is all speculation, so take it with a grain of salt, folks. Now, all of that being said, let's take a look at where we were at the end of Episode 7. So all the major players were in Falm, like we said, so we know Rand is on his way there with Moiraine, Lan, and Lanfear. That's kind of interesting that Lanfear is leading them, and kind of a sticking point for me about Episode 7. I didn't really know if that was something I enjoyed or not. Lanfear being cozy, not just with Rand, but also a little bit with Moiraine and Lan. We'll see how that goes. I'm not quite sure how that's going to turn out, but he's on his way to Falm. We know that Matt is in Falm because he drank that tea in that weird scene in the last episode. We know that Ishamael is definitely in Falm. High Lord Turok is there. All of the Shan Chen soldiers, Suldam, Damane are there. Egwene is still captured at the end of Episode 7. Nynaeve and Elaine have collared a Suldam, and they're ready to bust into the kennels to rescue Egwene. That's going to be an interesting scene when we see the Suldam realize that she's actually collared and can use the one power. That's going to be really interesting, especially when Renna gets collared. Can't wait for those scenes. We know that the Ogier Loyal is there. We also know that Lord Ingtar is there. Now, Ingtar is another one. They haven't really spent much time with him this season, just a few snippets here and there, and there hasn't been many nods to the fact that he's a dark friend. So we don't really have much idea of how this is going to work out. Now, of course, in the book series as well, there were a few little plot points here and there that revolved around Ingtar being a dark friend, a few hints, but nothing major. It wasn't as out there as some other hints and foreshadowing was in the book series. So maybe that's what they're going for, but we haven't spent much time with him, so I don't know if the 5 Ride Forth for Return scene will even happen. I really hope it does, because don't get me wrong, it's one of my favorite scenes in The Great Hunt, but there will be not near as much emotional impact with Ingtar sacrificing himself to redeem himself as there would be in the books, because we don't really know him that well in the show. We haven't spent much time with him, so for those of you who haven't read the book series and have just watched the show, he's an interesting character, but you're probably not as invested into his life and things that are going on as you would have been if you had read the books. So there's that. All of that being said, everybody pretty much is in Falme. Is Bail Damon in Falme? Maybe. Is he in episode 8? I'm not 100% sure. I think we're done with seeing Min for now. I don't think she's going to show up in Falme. So what is going to happen? Well, from these clips, we have a couple of different things here. We see Ishamael and Lanfear kind of cozying up in what I can only assume is his apartment, his house, his dwelling in Falme, where he's at, with all of the seals that are there. I am almost certain that these are no longer just visual representations, but they are the actual seals with all of the Forsaken, and that Ishamael is waiting for the proper time or waiting for the ability to break them. Will he break them in this episode? I don't think so. Maybe near the end of the episode, we'll see 1 or 2 crack, perhaps, to have Forsaken for the next season. But I don't think they're going to be a huge focal point of what's going on here, other than the fact that he needs Rand there to help him break them or turn Rand in some fashion, or just to kill Rand, like he did in the book series. This is sort of an odd thing for me, because at this point in the book series, the seals were talked about a little bit, discussed a little bit, but they weren't really a big focal point of the story, and they seem to be here, so I'm not quite sure where they're going with that. Now, in addition to that, we see Moiraine and Lan in what appears to be the coast of Falme. So we have seen Aviendha, Bane, Chiad, and Perrin show up in Falme, on the outskirts of Falme, near the ocean, and they were very amazed at the water. This is pretty much the same shot of that. So we've seen the Waygate outside in the surf and the sand, in a lot of the promotional material and behind the scenes stuff. Likely Moiraine and Lan are coming out of that with Lanfear and Rand, but they're alone in this clip. How does that work? How does it happen? We know Lanfear can travel. It's 100% a thing in the book series, and we know it's also a thing in the show because she basically just took a knocked out Mat and transported him to Falme, so why would she walk through the ways with them? I really don't know. Maybe perhaps it's a way to get rid of Moiraine and Lan while they're in the ways. She'll try to separate herself from them, take Rand with her. Maybe Rand and her get to Falme before Moiraine and Lan, and they have to kind of work their way out through the maze of the ways. Try saying that 3 times fast. I really don't know how it's going to work, but I do suspect that Moiraine, Lanfear, and Rand will all be separated at some point during that journey, because they're on the beach here. They're out in the middle of nowhere, and I think this is not end of episode. I think this might be when they arrive in Falme. It's my guess, anyway. Next up, we have Rand facing High Lord Turok. This is going to be a thing. He is actually going to face a Blade Master. The Flame of the Void has not been mentioned, I don't believe, at all in the series. So I'm not sure if they're going to bother with that part of it just yet. If he achieves the Flame of the Void to sort of hone all of his skills and really embrace becoming a Blade Master during the duel with High Lord Turok, I really don't think that's going to happen. I think he may end up using the power to cheese it a bit. I don't know, but he's definitely going to fight him, because we've seen a number of promotional images where he's walking up to High Lord Turok and all of his guards and essentially challenging him. Not quite sure what that is. Maybe he's going for the horn. Maybe he's going for the dagger. I really don't know. But in the book series, what he did is he kind of broke into the house and he was there to steal the dagger. He really didn't give two shits about the horn. I mean, he did a little bit, but he was more concerned about the dagger for Mat. That's what he really wanted, and that's what caused the big fight between him and High Lord Turok. So, all of that being said, I think we're going to see it. I just don't know how it's going to play out on screen. Next up, we have Nynaeve looking absolutely stunning as a Suldam, and that's kind of a weird thing to say considering how horrible Suldam are, but the costume looks absolutely immaculate, and this looks to be inside the kennels in likely Egwene's cell. So we know that the rescue will likely happen in this episode. It kind of has to set up the scenes and plot lines for Season 3, and it did so in the books, but I think what we're going to see here is this is either just before or just after she collars Rena, Egwene's Suldam, and then leaves them tethered in the cells near the Adom. It's going to be really interesting to see on screen. And we have this. The dagger makes an appearance. This dagger has been very elusive this season. It hasn't been mentioned much, just a couple of times here and there, but we haven't really seen much of it on screen at all. Not since episode 8, I believe, of season 1. And it appears to be tempting Mat right here. So maybe this is when he is sort of done with the tea. He's more awake. He's more alert. Here's the dagger, and they're trying to tempt him with it to turn him into sort of Darth Mat, if you will, so he could stab Rand or take care of Rand, because that was in Min's vision. He did stab Rand in Min's vision. So we're going to get that part of the plotline as well. Rafe Judkins has also said in a recent Q&A that one of his favorite scenes from episode 8 involves Mat Cauthon and a musical instrument. So either he's completely pushed us down the wrong path and he's talking about something kind of funny like a flute or a lute, or this is the Horn of Valyria he's talking about, which I really like to believe it is, and we're going to get to actually see Mat Cauthon blow the horn. We know the Heroes of the Horn show up in episode 8. There's been a ton of behind-the-scenes footage. I featured it here in the channel quite some time ago, probably up to maybe 8, 9, 10 months ago or a year ago when they were actually still filming those scenes. We've seen a bunch of Heroes of the Horn, including the female champion of the light, Brigida. There's a ton of them on set. We don't know who's playing them, what's going on with them really, but it's pretty interesting to see because we know they're going to appear. Now, next we see this, Elaine looking concerned, upset, a little torn, over top of who? Well, I think she's over top of Rand right now. This might be their very first meeting, and it might mirror what happens in the first book when he falls down into the gardens and the palace in Andor, and she sort of dusts him off, picks him up, and treats him like a stray animal, I think is what Gowan had said. So I think this is the scene where he's injured, and she's coming to sort of patch him up, and that's how they first meet, as a nod to that scene from The Eye of the World. I believe, anyway, not 100% on that. Then we have this. We know we're getting the big battle at Falm. I don't think it's going to be as big as the book series, because I think what we're going to see is we're going to see the charges happening on top of this, I don't know what you'd call it, a walkway. I'm not sure what the actual term is, but we've seen a lot of behind-the-scenes footage where they did film on top here, up on top of the wall, and again to the right here, down below in the courtyard. There's a lot of fighting, and the fighting happens between White Cloaks, between Shan-Chan, I think there's the White Cloaks right there, including Joffrey Bornhold there, looking just absolutely angry. So we know the White Cloaks are fighting Shan-Chan. We know that the Aiel are there fighting. We know Perrin is fighting. We know that Mat Cauthon is there as well, and he seems or appears to have a staff carved with ravens. That was covered much time ago on my channel as part of promotional material that they released. Sort of a call out to what he gets later on, maybe in the series. But we know they're all there. We know the fight happens, and they've talked a lot about the dragon proclaiming himself in the sky. So if that's the case, are we going to get to see Rand fight Ashamael in the sky? Well, maybe, but we've seen this clip here of Rand appearing incredibly wounded, being held by Mat, and asking who someone is. I think that someone is Elaine, kind of leaning over him, and this is likely after the battle, after everything is done. Now, question to ask yourself is, why is Rand injured? Does Ashamael actually stab him with the blade that he had, or the staff that he had in the series? I really don't know. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. He doesn't have any weapons in the show so far. So does he trick Mat into stabbing Rand, and that's why Min had the vision? You gotta remember, Min saw the vision, and it wouldn't have been someone disguised as Mat if Min's visions work even remotely the same as the book series. She's seeing it around Mat. So Mat actually does stab Rand, or it stands for something else. So I think Matt actually does it. Why does Matt do it? Maybe to save Rand from burning too much of the one power during the fight with the Shamiel. Maybe because he already has a wound and it's the only way to save Rand from that wound, much like the book series, so the two evils can fight one another and they kind of get closed off, like what happens much later on. I really don't know about this part, but it's kind of interesting to speculate about it. Will we get the big sky battle? That remains to be seen. I really can't see a way of them doing that without making it too cheesy, but it would be kind of neat to see them try either way. All right, let's get on to that very short clip that was released in social media.
If you want power, you take it.
All right, so like I said, short clip, couple of things I want to talk about here. The first part is this. I thought it was really interesting. We see a lot of Damane and a lot of Suldam channeling in this scene. They're on a ship, so is it a tidal wave? They're sending ashore to wipe out the White Cloaks. Are they attacking ships to leave the harbor? I really don't know. I have no idea what's going on here, but I'm interested to see how the battle goes because there's not as many people on screen as I think we expect for the big Battle of Falm, but it will be far more than we've seen in episode 8 of season 1. So I think they're going to be very smart with how they frame things and how they do things, and I think they're going to kill off large swaths of different armies pretty quickly, but we know for sure, like I said earlier in the video, we're getting White Cloaks. The horn does get blown. We have the Heroes of the Horn, and we also have a couple of Aiel who are just masterful at killing things, and the Shan-Chan. So they're all going to be fighting in Falm. So what are they doing here? Are they wiping out big portions of the armies right off the bat? Is this them attacking ships? I don't know. Either way, fun to speculate. This is the only other real thing I wanted to talk about in this clip, and this was basically confirmation that we're getting a cold open of the sealing of the Dark One at the end of the Age of Legends. Now, why, John, do I believe that? Well, the alt text on Twitter, when the official Wheel of Time posted this, basically said that these are 8 people channeling into a Shamiel, and he's screaming in the center of a disc. Now, I think this is him being sealed away into his seal, that big seal that was on the ground in the Eye of the World. I think that's what this is. Now, if we're seeing this, it's not something we got to actually read about on page in the book series. All we heard was that the 13 most powerful Aes Sedai that shifted over to the Shadow in the Age of Legends were in the Boar. They were at Sheol Ghul when Lews Therin and his 100 companions showed up to seal the Boar, and they got kind of trapped in along with the Dark One in his prison. That's all we really knew about it. There's a wonderful short story that was written. There's a couple of other appendices in some of the companions and whatnot that give more insight into that, but we didn't really read about what happened specifically. So this here, I think this is a Shamiel getting sealed up. Now, as the clip kind of zoomed in there, I couldn't tell who was on the outside. Who are these 8 people? Was it 8 men? Was it 8 women? Was it a mixture? I have no idea. Are they going to follow what happened at the end of the Age of Legends, like in the book series, where it was just the men that went there, and in their pride and their anger, they basically sealed the Dark One up and didn't wait for any help, and tainted the male half of the true source? Are they going to go a different way with it? I really don't know. But we know Lews Therin is in this episode. We're seeing a Shamiel sealed into that big, huge seal that we saw in the Eye of the World at the end of episode 8 of season 1. So we're definitely getting at least that much of it. I just don't know how it's going to play out in the episode. All right, folks, so that's the 2 clips we have, and that's pretty much all we know about episode 8. So what is happening? Well, we know the Battle of Falm is happening. We know that Shamiel and Rand square off because we got to see that. We just don't know how they're going to fight or how it's going to work out. Will Shamiel try to turn Rand? Will it be a full-on battle? Will we actually see it in the sky, a la, the cheesy thing we saw in the book series? I really don't know. I don't know how it's going to work out. But I want to hear in the comments down below from you folks. What do you expect to see from episode 8? What is your make or break? What do you have to see in this episode? Do you need to see Matt Cawthon blow the horn? Do you need to see a Shamiel fight Rand in the sky? Do you need to see 5 Ride Forth 4 return? And what things could you live without? I mean, if they had to cut some things or change some things about the final Battle of Falm, some of it probably wouldn't work too well on screen, in my opinion. What would you leave out? I know what I would leave out, but I want to hear your thoughts on this as well. Now, remember, we have I'm looking at the clock here. Just under 24 hours before episode 8 is revealed to us, and we actually get to watch it all together. So we'll all know soon enough, but until then, it's really fun to speculate. So thank you so very much for sticking with us here to the very end. Here's to many more.